One of the most iconic and immediately recognizable creatures in the entire Fallout franchise is the Ghoul. It is also one of the most hated and despised as well, for pretty good fucking reason, but more on that later. These savage mutants wander many parts of the waste, attacking and mauling to frig any who approach them. I say savage as today we will be primarily focusing on feral ghouls, as they, to me anyway, are the more interesting party to discuss. So let's take a look at these ever so slightly undead shitheads. Ghouls are humans. Well, when I say humans, they're as a human as a super mutant is. They're a result of extreme exposure to radiation. As a result, their bodies have become rotted and decayed. Even though there seems to be wasting away in damaged ligaments, they can still chase you for hours with some excellent form sprinting. After that, they can use a surprising amount of strength to dome your head in. In the Fallout universe, the majority came from either people in vaults without adequate radiation protection, such as Vault 12, or vaults that malfunctioned later. Many ghouls were born long after the war and turned only because of exposure to radiation. Despite the effect the radiation has on their bodies, ghouls are extremely long-lived, some having been around since before the war, or just immediately after, such as Dean Domino. Though it is harder to tell how old most feral ghouls are, as having a nice chat with someone is a tad problematic when they're trying to tear your jaw off. However, in an interview with Chris Taylor, he stated the majority of ghouls do not live longer than people, so the feral ghouls we see are either the few that do, or are closer to our own age. The rate at which they transform is also something to talk about. In some instances, such as in Camp Searchlight, it seems to have been instantaneous. If you remember from my video on Matthew's animal husbandry, the parents of the child there left for Camp Searchlight, and within just a few days became feral. Many of the inhabitants of Camp Searchlight turned even quicker. Also Moira Brown, if you blew the warhead in Megaton. A counter-example to this is Jamie from the Dunwich building. His mutation seems to have been much more gradual, taking place over a few days to possibly a week. So perhaps the level of radiation has an effect on the time frame in which the mutation into a feral ghoul takes place. So why the resistance to radiation and longevity? Well, it's due to the way their cells. On a cellular level, the DNA of the average ghoul is able to regenerate and repair itself quicker than humans. This is due to the rate that their nucleic acids can form and repair themselves. Due to this and the exposure of radiation, their neurotransmitters are in much better shape than the average person's. Neurotransmitters transmit signals across a synapse from one neuron to another. These transmitters along their spinal cord deteriorate at a reduced rate, which means they can still function. The decaying nature of their skin is also attributed to these transmitters. Specifically, it is the neurotransmitter responsible for cardiac and respiratory functions. These transmitters regenerate at a highly accelerated rate, so there is still sufficient oxygen to support the ghoul. However, there is not enough to prevent necrosis, so they take on a decayed and dead appearance as a result of this. Some non-feral ghouls complain about joint pain and all miss their noses, so damage to cartilage as a result of mutation is also likely, which could be the reason why they're always stooped over. A lack of nutrition is also a viable reason as well, as all ghouls we come across, feral ones anyway, are greatly emaciated, with their bone structure clearly visible to the naked eye. The intelligence of ghouls varies, though keep in mind it is only feral ghouls we are looking at. They seem to have retained enough instinct to form packs and congregate in nests. They seem to dislike sunlight, though this may be in fact them preferring to hunt at night. As Isabella Proud stated, the alphas of these packs seem to be the glowing ones, who we will come to later. This is due to the radiation they give off. Ghouls are healed by radiation, and for the feral ones, absorbing more and growing stronger may be instinctual. All ghouls are immune to radiation poisoning, though it does seem to hasten the feral process, as the more radiation a ghoul is exposed to, the more they change, eventually becoming a glowing one. Only a few glowing ones we meet aren't trying to tear our heads off, notably Hank from Fallout 2 and Jason Bright from New Vegas. This suggests that while the amount of radiation that a ghoul is exposed to does hasten the deterioration of intelligence into a feral, there are a few who are the exception. Also worth noting is that not all feral ghouls are hostile to the player. So a combination of surrounding and radiation, as well as the mind of the individual in question, may factor into whether a ghoul will go feral, and if so, whether they will act hostile in a manner towards other individuals. One last comment on intelligence is that they are easily fooled by the ghoul mask. They have very high perception, so it is odd that a simple mask is all it takes to fool them. Most ghouls would have some level of radiation, and we can assume a scent different from humans. So I find it odd that they would ignore all this other information and rely solely on sight and accept us as one of them. The average ghoul is an ordinary feral one whose mind has went to shit after so much exposure to radiation. They attack anything that isn't a ghoul and do so using their hands to bludgeon and slash their prey, inflicting grievous bodily harm in the process. Roamers would be the next step up from ordinary ghouls, though they are biologically identical. They just seem to have been soldiers who turned so that they have the added protection of having been wearing armour when it happened, and they're slightly rarer than your average ghoul. Reavers are the equivalent of the last two on a shitload of jungle juice, in that they possess an insane amount of hit points and can inflict massive amounts of damage very quickly. Their regenerative abilities seem to be higher as well, as they can rip parts of their bodies off and throw them like grenades. This, to me anyway, suggests that their biological makeup is more volatile, and on exposure to air, it detonates. Since this action does not kill them, we can assume they regenerate tissue faster. Their faces are also more deteriorated than other ghouls, though why this happens, I don't know. Glowing ones are unique in that they have taken in so much radiation they become themselves conduits of it. This allows them to harness it as a weapon to damage their prey or heal other ghouls in their pack. This is the main reason why they usually end up as alphas, as they can act as a near unlimited supply of radiation for other ghouls. Their luminescence is their most identifying characteristic. It is due to the build-up of radioactive chemicals and waste in their bloodstream. Upon ghoulification, the process that would usually filter these shuts down, and over time they build it up in the body, causing the glowing effect. This might also be why, despite high amounts of radiation and a pack to defend them, there are so few. The glowing effect would make it impossible for them to hide, so many of them may have been killed off by other predators or individuals inhabiting the waste. The presence of feral ghouls is a main reason there is so much discrimination against the non-feral ones, as many people are not aware that there is a distinction between the two. As mentioned by 3Dog, normal ghouls are like everyone else, but the feral ones should be shot in sight. A possible solution to this was conceived by Dr. Clark from the cancelled Fallout game Van Buren. He engineered born ghouls. These are ghouls that were, as the name suggests, born as ghouls and did not start as human. They were slightly stronger than normal ghouls. However, the primary advantage is that they could reproduce, providing a future for the species, and they had their full mental faculty, so they would not go feral. If the feral type was killed, and these are the intelligent ghouls that were the only ones left, then the source of people's hatred towards ghouls would be gone, allowing them to lead more peaceful lives. So there you go, the most dangerous semi-nudists you're likely to come across in your travels across the waste. People with twisted, mutated bodies, some of which have succumbed to madness and became no more than zombies. I have only lightly touched on non-feral ghouls and left out the marked men found in Divide completely. I have done so as I think these two topics would make one decent video in of themselves. The future of these creatures is uncertain, although it is confirmed that they are in Fallout 4. So with any luck, we will be seeing a lot more of them, lined up in our crosshairs. I hope you liked this episode about irradiated zombies and an almost too detailed scientific explanation of them. If you did, why not leave a like? I love reading comments, so get them in there. Any suggestions for future content or videos you would like me to do are appreciated and welcome. If you want to help me grow, share this video on as many social media sites as you can, especially Reddit. Tell everybody. If you want to contact me regarding business, send me a private message either here or on Twitter, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I hope to see you in my next episode, and until then, goodbye.